new ground for me. I thank the AHPICON, Dr. Satish and Adel for giving the opportunity. So may I welcome the panelists, Dr. Babu from Chennai. He's the chairman of AHPICON Hospital. And I welcome my colleague, my senior, Dr. Francis Roy, who runs orthopedic hospital in Tirunelveli, and Dr. Poorna Chandran, medical administrator of Kaveri Hospital, Chennai, and our professor, Professor Nandimath.
So good afternoon to everyone. I know how difficult it is to sit for post-lunch sessions, but I am sure that our panel of speakers will keep you active and alert through their beautiful inputs. And first I will ask that Babu, since you have started a new hospital recently in Chennai, so we would like to know what are the challenges that you have faced while starting the new hospital.
Respected chair and co-chair, thank you for the opportunity. So I was just saying, I was a practicing physician. I was having a very happy life. Then this happened, starting a hospital. So I was on a sabbatical. I was just enjoying my life. Then I thought that boy, these doctors are working 24/7 and they will die as a doctors and they will have other facets of characters to their life. And we were doing consulting, we were doing very good. Then somehow something struck us and we started this hospital. So two perspectives. I had been an administrator. I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Rambabu for almost 18 years or so with the Vijaya group of hospitals. And working there as a medical administrator for say around more than a decade or so, the perspective of complying to the regulatory and statutory requirements, then coming out and starting your own venture as a small, say less than 50-bedded hospital, the both perspectives is entirely different. Of course, after conceptualizing your name and other things, company name, then registering and in the Companies Act and okay, you have started a company, okay. Now, okay, we have a great plan in front of us. We are quite sure that will go good, fine. Now we go into this regulatory and statutory things. As we know that the Indian setup is not a kind of a single system-driven system, like it is polycentric. The interested parties, what we call it is in ISO, or the stakeholders, what we call in other parlance, it's going to be enormous. The state, the society, the common person, for example, you are keep and keen. Sometimes you are your own interested party, right? You are your own interested parties. So looking into all these aspects and starting a hospital is a big thing. And these layers of regulations and statutes varies a lot. For example, starting with the building facility, then the working manpower, then the kind of services what you offer, and the legalities what you have to face during the process of treating a patient, right? And when we transform from a physician perspective to a hospital owner perspective, there are a lot of things we need to take into account. As you know, that there are more than 60 plus licenses to be obtained from the government, starting from your building certificates, your occupancy certificates, your clinical establishment. Wow. They said that the Clinical Establishment Act maybe probably takes 2 months to come, 6 months we are waiting for it. Navigating the path is very, very, very difficult. And moreover, there is no single window system to actually have this process as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that. It is more of we go to 1, then we go to 10, then ask us come to 1, 2. It becomes more chaotic. And if you have a blood bank, okay, blood bank policy, NACO guidelines, other things. And if you have an X-ray like ARB, BARC and other things. And if you have your other services, PCT Act, your MTP, your Transplantation Acts, your pharmacy licenses, your drug control licenses. And these are layered and they act in silos. The problem is not complying with your regulatory or statutory requirement. the cost what you are going to bear for it. The cost is not only the money, that is one part of it, the cost of time. For example, due to some process stuck somewhere, you are not going to comply with those standards and your operations get delayed. And that cost of time indirectly goes into your operational cost not able to be met by your plan. So the costs are not the single cost. Of course, you know that the cost is x plus y, right? Now x plus y plus z, wherein the z comes in is that we have to wait for the time. That is the most difficult part. And if you go to certain, for example, say we take a lease, okay, we go to the office for registration. As you know that it has to be a long lease and we have to register. What is the registration charges? Wow, it is 2 months of my operational cost, runs into lakhs. So these are the big challenges as a person, as an young entrepreneur, or maybe a first generation entrepreneur to come into this field and start a hospital. So I'm not saying this to discredit somebody's dream to start a hospital. What I'm saying is that we have to think and plan for it. And I personally feel that our regulatory and statutory systems are not so transparent or entrepreneurial friendly to start a hospital. And as we know that, if there is some transparency or some kind of logic brought into the system, then it becomes easy for us. And moreover, we are not adding any bits to it, right? We are taking an existing hospital. So we are only standardizing the process. So yes, there are 60 plus licenses, that is one thing. And second is that the cost of getting those statutory and regulatory thing is not the direct cost attached to it. It also, the indirect cost is also the cost of time what you spend on getting those kind of licenses till which your business is not going to function optimally.
So after all these things, I think it reminds me that when I was doing my chartered accountancy articleship in Hyderabad in 1980, I have attended one meeting of Nani Palkewala, the Supreme Court advocate. He said that instead of starting an industry in Hyderabad, it's better to have 10 killi shops, pawn shops in Hyderabad. So no need to take any licenses, no need to pay any taxes. So better to have pawn shops in Hyderabad than starting a new industry. At that time I never knew the thing and all. I joined in a hospital and we'll have to face all these problems in getting the licenses. During my experience in healthcare industry for the past 4 decades, 40 years, but don't ask me my age. Okay, 40 years of my experience in healthcare. Actually, we have started one department only for getting licenses or for renewal licenses or only to look after the licenses. So in city, definitely we'll have to face a lot of problems in this thing and we have to spend a lot of time also in renewing and getting these licenses. So I request that Roy, since you are running a hospital in Greater Town and this thing and all, what type of challenges that you are facing in getting these licenses and running a hospital in Type 3 hospital township?
Good evening, everyone. I am an orthopedic surgeon and also a person who has been involved with the administration of a hospital for the last 23 years. We run a 110-bed hospital in Tirunelveli, which has got all specialties except a few. Now, to start with, I think I should start with what Ravi Kumar sir left us with. Sir was saying that today there was an incident with this relative who was not able to get a small abscess release in America. I think India still has one of the best healthcare systems. Any day you can walk into any of the super specialties and get a treatment immediately. I think nowhere else in the world this exists. And Tirunelveli, a 3-tier city, still has got a big blessing in disguise. still we doctors are considered as sometimes as gods and families still there. Our patients don't look at us like what is looked upon in the city. And that's a big blessing for us in many ways. And I think 2007 was the first time when I started hearing this word customer or client. And then we had the Consumer Act also come in. And in the meantime, I think we have to understand a very basic difference between a customer and a patient. You go to a shop, you buy something, it's not very nice. The shopkeeper might take it back and say that it's under warranty and he might replace it. But a patient doesn't work like that. I think it's like telling a teacher, you're sending a student to him to be taught and you're calling the teacher and the student as a customer relationship, something like that. So what happens, what is very peculiar in our small three-tier cities, it starts right from the recruitment. We don't get good staffs. We don't get competent people. A person, if he has to be in Tirunelveli, it's only because of two reasons. Either he's a native of Tirunelveli or he's married into Tirunelveli. Otherwise, you don't really get him to stay there. I think all the small cities have the same problem. Or you'll have to pay them through the nose. So, only these options patients stay, the employees stay. And when it comes to price management, or what happens is we have got a very small buying power. We are all small bodies. And getting a margin on our products or our monitors or whatever, our buying power is very less. And a lot of times what happens, we go in for local purchases. We can't do a centralized purchase because we don't want to stock so much in our pharmacies because we do not know. First is difficulty in showing, so our negotiation power becomes so less when you're a three-tier city patient. And also what happens is the number of vendors you have because of that becomes more. Coming to financial problem, the good side is we have a good patient mix, still I think 60 to 70% or 80% is walk-ins, they're not insurance patients. So we have a lot of cash patients with us, so we have a good cash flow and only 10 to 15% is insurance based. So in that way, we are blessed in a way. And the problem is, most of the patients who come us is from the middle class, lower middle class, or very few upper middle class patients because the rest of them either go to the nearby city for better hospitals. And these patients, when you tell them they estimate, they get scared. And by law, I think today we have to give them an estimate. And getting money from them in part is such a big problem. They just push it till the last, and most of them are known to you because it's a small town. And they finally expect a discount also for you at the end of the bill. And it's such a difficult thing to do. And then of course, even if you have discount policies, if you have insurance, payout backs, we have to bear the brunt of paying our fixed costs every month. We have our nurses and all our fixed costs which are to be there. And of course, a old building, a 40-year-old building like mine, I think a maintenance cost every month, a budget separately for it. And the biggest thing is the consultant costs and the equipment costs. We really don't work out the ROI for consultants. We work out some ROI for our equipments, but even that we are not able to meet. And consultants, it's really a difficult thing for us in the rural areas to get them the patients, to make them sit and do their work. And of course, not the least about the finances, there is a huge revenue leak somewhere which we are able to be detected, but then we detect it at a wrong point by the time we have lost something. Nursing, I think it would be a repeat of what I was saying. Quality of nurses, training of nurses, the stresses these nurses undergo in a small setup is much, much different. It's not the same as in a bigger hospital. They're not able to, because one day they are in ICU, one day you should go to the casualty. So she covers casualty for that day. So they are also a little stressed in that. Licenses, we have changing rules. So many rules have been changed. Even this year have been changed. The government has increased their fees so much. And then you have now the fire coming in, because in Tirunelveli now it has become a smart city. Please understand, once you become a smart city, a lot of rules change. Even your building might be 40 years old, but it has to be by regulation. The smart city has changed a whole lot of regulations, and sometimes I find all small hospitals at one time might need to be changed completely or broken down and built again if the smart city rules are really strictly followed. Clinical problems, quality to quantity. I think the duty doctors who come are really scary now. Especially, I cannot have a night's sleep if I don't have an anesthetist covering my casualty. So I have 3 anesthetists just for my casualty, 24 hours at 8-hour shift. Because otherwise, if some patient comes and even one death happens or one mishap happens, I cannot go stand them. And it's like they would call me again and again in the night. So the quantity of doctors, DMOs who come and the quality is so different, and they hardly stay with us. And last but not the least, I think there are 3 things that are important in 3 tier cities which are happening. One is a succession crisis. There is a family doctor who runs a hospital. He expects his son to become a doctor or a family member to become a doctor. There is no doctor. And then what happens to that hospital? The hospital runs with the second thing is a structural or a management crisis. The management crisis is you have 2 managers, one or 2 persons in the lab, you'll have 2 pharmacists. But now you need a HR, you need a operational manager, so the rising costs will, the third thing is a statutory crisis. Now, as Babu was saying, 60 certificates, and Rambabu was saying, I have a separate department for maintaining the statutory. How will we small hospitals be able to do that? Even sir was saying, 12-hour shift for our nurses it's not accepted in a place like Tirunelveli, where when you are running a hospital, you are to be statutory requirement. And for the staff, we have to give them food, we have to have 8 hours, transport, so many other things that are associated, which is making our fixed costs really high. And I wouldn't say it's quite a challenge to run a small or a big setup with multi-speciality in a 3-tier city. And as our insurance person was saying, the profit margins have become paper thin because of another problem that post-COVID, most of our payments are made digitally. And with the digital payments it's really difficult to make your ends meet today in any small hospital or large hospital. And in years to come, you will see a lot of hospitals closing down in our rural setups, especially less than 30-bedded hospitals. And I think our primary care will suffer in the next 5 years because of our high regulations and our quality costs which are going to be put into these small hospitals.
Thank you, Dr. Roy and Dr. Poorna. I think recently, Kaveri Hospital has acquired the Fortis Hospital.
Yes, sir.
And I would like to know what are the challenges that you have faced during the acquisition and the strategies that you have made to manage them.
Thank you, sir. So, I had a unique experience. What has happened is, I was working in that building for 4 years and there was a change of management. So, usually when I go to join a new job, my boss used to show me the hospital and various processes there. So, this time I had a very different, and I was showing my boss, this is the department, this is where it is, this is the process like this actually. So what I learned from that is, it's a kind of a mixture of culture. See, the existing organization had a culture, and the acquiring organization has some culture, and there will be some new employees joining from different organizations. They will have culture, and that becomes a mixture of culture. And most of the process, which is good practices, which is in goes up, and some of the bad practices, which is comes from outside, gets in actually, and it takes time to return. Coming to the regulatory norms, it's like change of driver when the car is running in a 200 km speed actually. Okay, it's like a running hospital. I can't stop anything. Okay, suddenly one day ownership will change. Is my pharmacy license is valid or not? That's the question. Whether I can run the pharmacy or suddenly my MTP says it is not transferable. It has suddenly my OGC says I have an MTP patient today. Sorry, madam, I don't have a license. We will ship the patient over. I can't say that. We have to keep on running. That's a big challenge. So what I understood is first during the acquisition we should know which are all the licenses out of the 60, 65 licenses which is transferable, which is not transferable, which has got a grace period. For example, the blood bank has got a grace period actually. I can still hold the Fortis blood bank license and I can run actually. Whereas I can't run the hospital with the same clinical establishment act. I can't run, I can't do MTP license, MTP without that license actually. So this is the big challenges we had actually. But fortunately we were able to manage. As we were discussing in various forums, one request to our patrons in AHP is we have to make the licenses as a single window system. Okay, otherwise it's very difficult actually. So when I completed the acquisition process, what I remembered is this cardiothoracic and there is a joke with the cardiothoracic surgeon and car mechanic. So the car mechanic asked the cardiothoracic surgeon, sir, what do you do in the hospital? So he was telling, I am also working in the same like you. I am working on the engine. I share sometimes there is a struck in that petrol, like you are changing the petrol line, I change the arteries. You are changing the engine valves, I am also changing the human engine valves. So the car mechanic was very happy. He was like, oh, so I can also do cardiothoracic. I said, yes, you can do when the engine is running. If you are able to change the valves and other things, you can do. So that is the challenge I face. So that applies to the acquisition also. Because the biggest challenge is we have to keep running. We have to make the pharmacy running, theatre running, our X-rays, MRI, CT has to run. And the PCPAD is non-transferable. We have to apply well in advance and we have to get a temporary permission and we have to use the echo machines and the ultrasound machines. And most importantly, the change of consultants and the change of staff brings a cultural change, which will be the surprise for the regular patients actually. So this is what I experienced when we migrated from one organization to another organization. Thank you, sir.
Now some questions that we will take later after this. First round is over. About Nandimath sir. So, as you are a lawyer and a legal person, and we'd like to know what are the medical laws that affect the hospitals and what are the challenges? How to come out of how to risk reduction, this thing what you suggest to the hospitals regarding these medical laws and especially as a consumer cases.
Thank you, sir. When this particular question, which is the FAQ that is asked to most of the lawyers like us, that if there is a hospital establishment, how many laws we need to actually comply with? Is there any sort of a compendium or is there some kind of a methodology by which we can probably be on the right side of the law rather than being on the other side of the law? I would say you can probably actually classify all the laws into 4 categories. Because health being a state subject, every state has got a different additional laws to comply. So, rather than trying to go by numbers, if you ask me, still insist me to spell out the number, I would say there are about 58 laws which are affecting you on a day-to-day basis. But the best way, what one can do is, you can divide them into 4, what you call as verticals. The first one is, it is regarding registration and licensing. Depending upon the kind of activities you are undertaking, you need to undergo, this registration and what you call as licensing. This is one category. The second category, I would say, it is labor and industrial laws because you need to really comply with that. See, this is one area where you have greater amount of ease because most of the labor and industrial legislations what we have are central legislations. So there is some kind of a uniformity. The third, part of it is, this is probably, I would like to borrow a minute of your time and explain, sir. You are the only profession which is regulated differently. Like if you allow me to compare myself with you, my profession, to profess law, I require only the one license, that's all. Right. After that, I need to have some kind of a row, attire and things like that. So the only thing is, I have a license and I start practicing. But now you ask, what is professing medicine? This is where, to profess medicine, the skill or to exercise skill, you have been already given the license. By now, NMC, earlier MCA. But you need to prescribe medicine, and without prescribing medicine, you can't probably profess. At least in the 99% of the cases, if not 100%. So, the medicine which you prescribe gets regulated by another law. That is, what we call as Drugs and Cosmetics Act. And the third one is, look here, the devices with which you invariably deal with, they come under device. So I try to say that mixture of these three spheres enable you to practice. Except you, the other two, what you call as spheres, have already been taken, accepted as commercial activities. But you are the only one where it is commercialized, you are asked to be ethical. So that is why the third one is slightly very, kind of a thing. I always say, if you are using devices, what kind of laws that are applicable you try to find out. If you are talking of, let us say, the procedure, like you are doing termination of pregnancy, then there is a law. There is a dedicated law. So if you are talking about transplantation of human organs, then there is a law applicable. If you are dealing with HIV patients, there is a law. So what I am trying to say, the third vertical, you need to probably sit and calculate what kind of activities as a hospital you are doing, and you try to really find out the corresponding law, and then you need to comply. The last one is, I say, your so-called doctor-patient relationship law, where the Consumer Protection Act, which you asked, becomes very, very relevant. So, whether you can, now the question is obviously, sir, I am just taking 1 minute at a time more and trying to go one step further. If some doctor asks me, sir, I don't really know these many laws, I don't have that kind of a wherewithal to do all this, I would say, first three verticals, there are a good number of what you call as softwares that are available today. There are many agencies who are doing it. They are very expensive kind of a suits. If you can just tap into that, feed the information, they would get you the compliance requirements. And there are certain what you call as consultants who are doing annual type of a compliance returning for you. As far as the first three are concerned. But the last one is the real pain point. This is where you need to probably understand how the law is changing, and you need to train your people. This is where I would stop unless you have something very specific to touch upon.
What would you suggest to Sir, what would you suggest to our doctors and hospitals? How to reduce these medico-legal cases or consumer cases, either through making awareness or giving training programs or whatever it is. What would you suggest to our doctors and hospitals, mainly to reduce this medico-legal cases?
Sir, I am of the opinion, because I am an academic lawyer, I always try to say, education is the best tool. But what do you mean by education? Going to a lawyer it requires a bit of, let us say, education. When I say education, it is not very deep kind of a thing, sir. Your doctor should, like, you know, if I am a diabetic patient, you try to educate me so that I get that particular kind of, let's say, know-how, so that when to consult a doctor, I should be there. Similarly, a doctor should really know bit of a law or fundamentals of law, so that he can better able to protect, and in certain red flag situations he can instantaneously go to the law. That is what the education level should be. Another point in education is, look, if you go to a lawyer, pre-litigation or pre-dispute scenario, you need to sum up to the lawyer what you require. So, there you please understand, a right question fetches you the right answer. To formulate a right question to the lawyer so that you can understand and assess your legal position require a bit of legal awareness. Otherwise, I have seen many a times they come to me. See, most of the doctors who come to me who are entangled with some kind of legal problems today, they come for a second opinion because I don't represent them in court of law. They say, no, sir, we have already asked our lawyer friends or our in-house lawyer, we have asked the question, and he said it can be done. Now we are at the receiving end. That happens because your question formulation itself is wrong. That is why I am of the opinion, or I am a strong proponent, that there has to be some sort of awareness that is to be created. There are many we were the number one national law school to which I am part. We were the first one in the country to, create a postgraduate diploma programs in medical law. Today there are multiple, what you call as agencies they are doing, because now, rather than, strengthening our PGDMLE program, I have taken it up as a mission to advocate, help technically many agencies, organizations to create some kind of these modules. So, for example, in Gandhinagar we have one law school. They have already launched the program. Calcutta has launched the program. I am of the opinion, organizations like CAHO and AHPI also should really create these kind of modules and make it available. See, now technology is so easily available. You can make an online programs and courses so that doctors can, educate themselves at their own free time. That is the best method, according to me, to face the situation of medical ills.
Thank you. Dr. Babu. I think you have taken the hospital building on lease. So when you have taken the building on lease, what type of care that you have taken as far as the licenses, and because building stability certificate, so many certificates, safety certificate, license, and fire certificates will be there. So what type of care that you have taken while you have taken the building on lease? With own building, that is different. So when you have taken on lease, what type of care that you have taken at the time of taking the building on lease?
I think having our well-read lawyer on this thing, I think that would be a pertinent question for him. Actually, we have taken for a long lease, but I think you will be in a better position to answer that what are the things we have to be careful about.
Sir, it is really speaking of business law. When you are talking of lease or license, if you really, the very simple way I can explain is, if you are trying to have something license, that is, then you require very less hassles in law. But if it is lease, then it has to be registered, there are certain complications. But from your point of view, let us say if you are taking a particular hospital on lease, right? At that time, this lease or license complication you need not have to get into. See, what I am trying to tell you is, there is a person as far as these licenses or whatever the names, as far as certain of the permits are concerned, will continue. You are just stepping in as an enabler. Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
Whether the building owner or the hospital.
Sir, I would tell you there are two things. Once you are talking about, let us say, the liability part. Let us not, okay, I was taking it from the formality point of view. See, again, this itself is an excellent example. If I can just take the liberty of saying, a question which you formed, lawyer perceived it because you are speaking from your experience and I am answering from my experience. See, this is where formulation of question also. We say both are liabilities. Why? One is the liability of the owner, and the second one is occupier of the premises. Both are equally liable. There is a joint and a several liability, right? And it is actually the court which will ultimately decide who should be criminally held liable and sent behind the bars, right? Because there is something called as occupier's liability. And there, what happens is your license or lease agreement, what you write, where you are shifting the responsibility, that becomes a critical. Otherwise, that is why you are saying, even if it is a house which you have lent or you have rented out, and if there is some kind of a breakage of fire or something like that, the owner is first one to be targeted.
That is very actually relieving to hear. So I am not the only one there, so I have a company behind the bars.
Dr. Roy, in type 3 cities, how do you do the biomedical waste management? Do you have any system going on there?
Tirunelveli is lucky because of IMA. We have Tirunelveli, Tuticorin and Kanyakumari. We together, all the doctors join together and we have a common biomedical waste management facility, and it is run by a vendor called Aseptic Systems. And the best part of it is they've been doing it for now 7 years, I think, and they're doing an excellent job. Also giving back money to IMA, and we have a trust form which is called as Green Environ Trust, and that is also being run by all the IMAs there. The point that makes it very sore for us in a small city or a small hospital is every day we have to weigh our bags, put tags on them, scan the tags and upload it. This is quite a task which we find our staff from doing. We do not have any other way, but practically that is the problem, that we have to do it on a day-to-day basis. I am not very sure how much. We are doing it also by weight, not by bed, which is easier for us. And I tell my patients, I think we are the only profession who pays for our waste, also for our waste. And segregation of the waste is so important that only about 5% is, and invariably our staffs and everybody at times they mix the septic and the aseptic waste, and really the costs go up.
Poorna, how long these licenses you are taking over in hospital on lease or taking over a new project, your old running hospital? So how long these licenses will last? And you said about the blood bank license, be able to run for a couple of months. Following that, you have to go through a big process. Blood bank once again comes under Drug and Cosmetics Act. I don't know why. What is the drug in blood bank? So all these hassles are there. So how do you manage?
So first we have to understand what is the acquisition process. The acquisition process, there is a seller, there is a buyer. First they get into agreement. When they get into the agreement itself, they can start the transfer of license process. So some of the licenses are transferable, some of the licenses are not transferable. For example, the basic license to run the hospital, we call it as the Clinical Establishment Act. It is not transferable. So it has to be applied freshly. So first we have to divide which is transferable, which is not transferable, and we can apply the non-transferable licenses and still we can manage the other things which doesn't need fresh application. We can run it actually. For example, ARB license will remain for the entire period of expiry in the original owner name only. But they will give one authorization to run actually. So same way the pharmacy, same way we can transfer the other things. Which are the things which is very important, which can't be transferred is clinical development and certificate registration and corporation, and the biomedical waste authorization, air and pollution authorization. PCPAD is not non-transferable. We have to submit and create it. So that is very important. See, this is more important because ultimately when an acquisition occurs, I am able to get all my insurances in panel, then only my business can run in the same way. Till then, there will be a little snag in the business actually. Because the insurance companies also don't agree for the empanelment when some of the licenses are pending actually. So you know very well, the license takes its time actually. When we submit for a renewal or submit for a name transfer or submit for a fresh application, it takes its own time. So that's a challenge we have. When we time it with from the agreement time to registration and then acquisition, then we can well manage this gap actually. That's my suggestion.
Okay, thanks to all the speakers. And after completion of this panel discussion, I have understood that most of the hospitals are facing challenges in getting licenses and also the difficulties on statutory and regulatory compliances. So we all of us actually, he also suggested and then Poorna also has given the hint. The suggestion to the government would be state government to have a single window system where the hospitals can upload the entire data and all the required information in that particular website, so that the thing is hospital can get the license based on uploading one-time information to the government. And that is what is happening in the thing and all for every license and staff going around each and every department for each and every licenses. And the government also, the suggestion to the government will be the thing and all, government also can give a unique reference number to each and every hospital, so that if you just press that number, you will know the status of your application also. Every time you will not physically go to the departments and find out what is the status of your application. And it will also help. Now I have seen, I think, little more than 10 or 12 NABH audits when I was in this thing. So half a day the NABH assessor will spend half a day time only to verify the licenses. And 2 persons will be explaining about all the licenses sitting next to the NABH assessor. Suppose if we have the unique reference number for all the licenses, like now nobody is carrying the RTO, the driving license and registration, nobody is now carrying, because if they put the car number, the RTO or the police people will know entire details about that particular car. So no need to carry the pollution certificate or registration certificate or driving, all these things. Like that, the hospitals can now also have one unique number, so that whenever we put that number, we will know the status of the applications or what are the licenses that are already got to the hospital. So there's only this thing what we, even while discussed also, we came to that suggestion. And with that, I think we close this session. Thanks to all the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you to the entire panel members for presenting us with such important and awesome presentation. Thank you so much. May I gently request Dr. Raju Sivasamy to felicitate the speakers and the chair on the dais, please. Requesting Dr. Raju Sivasamy to please felicitate Dr. Babu Narayanan, founder and chairman, Alpha Camp Hospitals. We are presenting a memento to Dr. Poorna Chandran, medical administrator, Kaveri Hospitals. Felicitating Dr. O.V. Nandimath, Professor of Law, National Law School, University of India. Over to Dr. Francis Roy, Director and Orthopedic Surgeon, Manimaran Multi-Speciality Hospital. Presenting to our chairperson, Mr. D. Rambabu. Presenting felicitation to our co-chair, Dr. Manimaran Jayaraman, Managing Director, Kuriji Hospital.
Ready sir, close ஆவாங்க பக்கத்துல வாங்க. தலைக்கு நிக்காதீங்க. Wait.